Hello, welcome to Aimee Nolte Music. Today we're talking about ear training, and this video is actually going to be a test or a quiz. Let's call it a quiz, it's a little less imposing. A quiz to find out, well, you are versed in your hearing of chords. We're going to talk about different types of chords. Today we're going to cover major chords, minor chords, and seventh chords, dominant seventh chords in all their inversions. And for a second, we're going to talk about augmented and diminished and half diminished chords. This video will kind of be in two parts. The first part is going to be me sitting at the piano, kind of coaching you about how to take this quiz and about how to approach ear training in general. The second part is actually going to be a quiz. So let's get over to the piano. I'm going to try to explain to you how I think about ear training. I'll be honest with you, I haven't had to work on this very hard. When I got to college, you have to take a dictation class as a music major, and I actually just tested out of those classes because that part was easy for me, and it's just because of my perfect pitch. If they were testing us in dictation with a guitar, I probably would not have been able to test out of those classes. But I get what it's like to, I think I get what it's like to not have that perfect pitch, because I have kids that don't have it and I have students that don't have it. So, let's take, for example, let's take a major chord. Now it's really easy when you're just starting to teach kids to be like, well, this is a major chord because it sounds happy, right? This is a minor chord because it sounds sad. That's like really easy, and you would be like, yes, I got it. Okay, now I can tell the difference between major and minor chords. But it's really hard because once you start changing keys, that happy sad, it's too hard to hear anymore. And so that way doesn't really make sense, I don't think. Because listen, here we go with a major chord, another major chord, minor chord. Now, most of the time when I do something like that, people will be like, oh, minor, but it's major. But if you just start throwing around major and minor chords in different keys with different relationships to each other, people kind of lose that happy sad. So I don't like that happy sad kind of way of thinking about chords. If it works for you, that's cool. So we've got different kinds of chords we're going to talk about today, right? We're going to talk about a major chord. Now I'm playing in C. We're going to talk about a minor chord. Talk about a diminished chord. That has 4 notes. They're all a minor third apart. Even though we call it C diminished right now because C is on the bottom, this is the same for E flat diminished, or F sharp diminished, or A diminished. Same notes. Also talk about augmented chords. That's how that sounds. And we're going to talk about dominant 7 chords. Oh, the augmented chord, that's 2 major thirds stacked on top of each other. So C, E, G sharp. There's a dominant 7 chord. That's a C, E, G, and B flat. Okay, so those are the kind of chords that we're going to talk about today. Now I told you I don't think that happy sad works. And I'm going to tell you what I do think works. Let's say that I play you this chord. The thing that you have to do is to hear every single one of those notes and sing them very quickly in your head. It's easy to hear the top one, isn't it? Can you sing the top one? Ah. And then you listen again. Maybe you can hear the middle one. Ah. Maybe you can hear the bottom one as well, especially if I play it again. So the thing to do is to very quickly sing all of those notes, la la la, and to know your solfege. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, and then you know that it's a major chord. Let's try again. Can you hear them? Sing the top one. Sing the middle one. Listen close as it rings. And the bottom. do your solfege. Da, da, da. Do, re, mi, no, do, re, mi, fa, sol. That's a minor chord, all right? See if you can do this one on your own. It's a major chord. Did you hear those notes? Good. Now, you're probably thinking, I don't know if that was A flat major or B major or A major or something like that. And that's okay. In fact, when we take our test in just a little bit, I'm going to have a scoring system. And you get 2 points for knowing that actually that was an A flat major chord. And you get 1 point for knowing that it was a major chord. Does that make sense? Because it's great to know that it's A flat major. That's awesome. But it's just as good, I think. Well, it's almost just as good to just know that it was a major chord. That's more important, I think, than actually knowing exactly where it's at on the keyboard, is just knowing the flavor and also knowing the inversion. So now let's talk about a first inversion major chord, and let's stick with A flat since we were just there. So if I play you this one, pretty easy to hear that top note, isn't it? Ah. Next one. And the last one is there. Now, here's what you have to do. You have to be able to hear the root. And that's a little tricky, so it takes some practice. But hopefully when you hear that chord, you can hear that that top note is the root. But if you don't, you do have to recognize the relationship between the top note and the middle note immediately. You think, da 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 da. That's a fourth away on top. That means first inversion. And it needs to be something that comes quickly to you. It won't come quickly at first. But as soon as you can hear that that top note and the middle note are 4 notes away from each other, a perfect fourth away from each other, you can say that's a first inversion major chord. Let's try with a minor. Ooh, that's our top note. That's our middle note, and that's our bottom note. So if you can hear the first 2 and realize la, 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 that those are a minor third apart, you know that you've got a minor chord in second inversion. It might be easier for you to hear the perfect fourth on the bottom, and if it is, that's fine. I tend to think it's easier for people to hear the top notes, so that's kind of how I'm addressing it. But if it's easier for you to hear that and hear la la on the bottom, then good. Now, this is why it becomes really important that you practice some solfege singing, if you're a singer especially, every day, and that you quiz yourself about singing intervals. So if you're on a walk, you can say, for this entire block, I'm going to sing minor thirds. And then you do do, me, fi, la, la, do, like that. That was a diminished chord. I practiced all of my minor intervals in the key of A, and now I raise it a half step. La, do, do, to B flat, and then we do the same thing. Do, me, fi, la, la, do. And you get comfortable singing your minor thirds. Next block, major thirds. You can sing your way up the augmented triad. You can get creative with it. I can't really tell you every way that you can practice your intervals, but especially if you have a friend, you guys can quiz each other. That's not really the most fun thing you could do with your friend. Maybe you go see a movie first, then come back and quiz each other, but whatever you can come up with to quiz yourself is a good plan. Now, I know that there are also ear training kind of apps, But I do think that there is really something to actually hearing a piano, a real piano, and the notes sustaining. So I'm not a big fan of those apps. Although if it works for you, that's good. Whatever works for you is good. So I only went through major chords, minor chords, touched on diminished chords right now, but I do want to give you your quiz, and I don't want to go on forever, but I do think that that's the most important way that you can go about learning to hear these chords, is to sing from top note to bottom note, quickly recognize the interval, and make up your mind about what inversion your chord is in. Another thing you can do is make yourself a recording. Make it really long. Give yourself like 50 different chords so that there's no way you could memorize it. And then you can just quiz yourself. Just do it on your phone, make a voice memo, sit and play all these chords, and then you're gonna sit down with your paper and pen and have a quiz. You can take my quiz, go get your paper, get your pencil, and I will explain to you about how we're gonna do it. Okay, for our quiz, we're gonna talk about some different kinds of chords, like I said. We're going to talk about these inversions like we're talking about figured bass in classical music. All right, so when you're writing down your answers, some of these chords are going to be in root position. So let's say the chord is C major, and you know it is. All you need to do is just write the letter C, or you can just write major, okay? Now, some of them will be in first inversion. That's with the C on the top. Okay, like that. We're going to call the first inversion chord a 6. If you'd like to know more about why we use these terms, I'll refer you to my friend Rick Beato on YouTube, because he recently did a great video about chords and their inversions and talking about figured bass notation. So, just to be quick, first inversion we're going to call a 6. So if you heard this, you would write C6. Actually, you can call them whatever you'd like, but for me, in the description of my video, so we've got this video, right? And then right under it on YouTube, there's a description. In the description, that's where I'm going to put all of the answers. So my answers are gonna look like that. If I play this, I'm gonna write C6, okay? Here's a second inversion chord. Right now, the C is the middle note. Normally, if I was gonna write that, I would write a C, and then I would write 6, 4, like a 6 up here and a 4 here. Since I can't do that with my, keyboard, in the description, I'll write a 6/4. For the 7th chords, if I play C7, you can just write C7, or you can just write dominant, whatever works for you, okay? But that's the way that I'll notate in my description when you go get the answers. 7th chords also. First inversion is called a 6/5. Second inversion is called a 4/3. And the third inversion is called a 4/2. Okay, here comes the quiz. Are you ready? First thing we're going to do with this quiz is change where the camera's at. I don't want you seeing my hands at all. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do is play a lot of different flavors of chords in root position. So all you have to do for this one is write diminished or augmented or major or minor. Again, you get bonus points if you know what the root note actually is on these chords. If you can say F major as opposed to just major. If you just say major, you get 1 point in the end. If you say F major and you get it right, you get 2 points. Okay, here we go. I'll play each chord twice for you. Next. Okay, good. Those were all of our root position chords. Now what we're going to do is focus on major inversions. So this is the part where you're either going to write just the letter, so maybe just a C, or you're going to write C6 or C6-4, depending on which inversion. Like I said, if you want to, you can write first inversion, second inversion, however is best for you. All right, here we go. Next. 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 And last one. Very good. That's it for major inversions. Now we're going to do the same thing with minor inversions. Here it comes. Now, if I'm going too fast for you, just press pause. You know, rewind it if you need to. Okay, here we go. Next. 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 Okay, and now it's time for seventh chords. So dominant seventh chords. Here we go. Next. 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 And our last one. All right, there was your quiz. Now you should go check in the description and see how you did. You can put your score in the comments if you want to be a little braggy, or if you want to be a little bit, I got some work to do. Let me know how you did. I have a feeling there might be more comments on this video because of this, so don't get mad at me if I don't get back to you. But yeah, see how you did. Take the quiz again. I think I did enough chords that you're gonna be able to take this a few times. And we'll do another one soon, like a part 2 that's even more difficult with major 7th chords and minor 7th chords, and I'll throw in those half diminished ones, augmented ones, and their inversions. We'll see how you do, okay? All right, good job. Thanks for being here. Don't forget to subscribe. I usually put a subscribe button right above my head at the end of the video, so do that for me now. If you're watching my videos and you haven't subscribed, well, not so cool. All right, I'll see you next time on Aimee Nolte Music.